Hare Krishna. Welcome back to our online Bhagavad Gita reading retreat labs. So in the last session, we have covered from verse number 17 till verse number 22 of the chapter number 8, that is attaining the supreme. So today is the last session of this particular chapter when we will be completing this chapter number 8, attaining the supreme, and which we will be covering from verse number 23 till verse number 28 in this section, and we will try to understand the supremacy of devotion in attaining the supreme. So now, without any delay, now let's move to the Vedas and we will start reading from chapter number 8, verse number 23. Translation. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which passing away from this world the yogi does or doesn't come back. Purport. The unalloyed devotees of the Supreme Lord who are totally surrendered souls do not care when they leave their bodies or by what method. They leave everything in Krishna's hands and so easily and happily return to the Godhead. But those who are not unalloyed devotees and who depend instead on such methods of spiritual realization as Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Hatha Yoga must leave the body at a suitable time in order to be sure of whether or not they will return to the world of birth and death. If the yogi is perfect, he can select the time and situation for living this material world. But if he is not so expert, his success depends on his accidentally passing away at a certain suitable time. The suitable times at which one passes away and doesn't come back are explained by the Lord in the next verse. According to Acharya Baladeva Vidyabhushan, the Sanskrit word kala used herein refers to the presiding deity of time. Now we will move to the next verse, that is your chapter number 8, verse number 24. Translation. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery God. In the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. Purport. When fire, light, day, and the fortnight of the moon are mentioned, it is to be understood that over all of them there are various presiding deities who make arrangements for the passage of the soul. At the time of death, the mind carries one on the path to a new life. If one leaves the body at the time designated above, either accidentally or by arrangement, it is possible for him to attain the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Mystics who are advanced in yoga practice can arrange the time and place to leave the body. Others have no control. If by accident they leave at an auspicious moment, then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. But otherwise, there is every possibility that they will have to return. However, for the pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves the body at an auspicious or inauspicious moment by accident or arrangement. Now we will move to the next verse, chapter number 8, verse number 25. Translation. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. Purport. In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Muni mentions that those who are expert in fruitive activities and sacrificial methods on earth attain to the moon at death. These elevated souls live on the moon for about 10,000 years by demigod calculations and enjoy life by drinking somarasa. They eventually return to Earth. This means that on the moon there are higher classes of living beings, though they may not be perceived by the gross senses. Now we will move to the next verse, chapter number 8, verse number 26. Translation. According to Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light, one in darkness. When one passes in light, he doesn't come back, but when one passes in darkness, he returns. Purport. The same description of departure and return is quoted by Acharya Baladeva Vidyabhushan from the Chandogya Upanishad 5.10.3 to 5. Those who are treated laborers and philosophical speculators from time immemorial are constantly going and coming. Actually, they do not attain ultimate salvation, or they do not surrender to Krishna. Now we will move to the next verse, chapter number 8, verse number 27. Translation. Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered, therefore be always fixed in devotion. Purpose. Krishna is here advising Arjuna that he should not be disturbed by the different paths the soul can take when leaving the material world. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. He should know that concern over either of these two paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always docile in his service, and this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. The word yoga yukta is especially significant in this verse. One who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities. See, Rupa Goswami advises anasakta visayan yatharantham upajim utsaha. One should be unattached to material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. By the system which is called Yukta Vairagya, one attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions because he knows that this his passage to the supreme abode is guaranteed by devotional service. Now we will move to the next verse, chapter number 8, verse number 28, translation. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and spiritual activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all this, and at the end he reaches the supreme eternal abode. Purport. This verse is a summation of the seventh and eighth chapters, which particularly deal with Krishna consciousness and devotional service. One has to study the Vedas under the guidance of the spiritual master and undergo many austerities and penances while living under his care. A brahmachari has to live in the home of the spiritual master just like a servant, and he must beg alms from door to door and bring them to the spiritual master. He takes food only under the master's order, and if the master neglects to call the student for food that day, the student fasts. These are some of the basic principles for observing brahmacharya. After the student studies the Vedas under the master for some time, at least from age 5 to 20, he becomes a man of perfect character. Study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. After this training, the brahmachari is allowed to enter into household life and marry. When he is a householder, he has to perform many sacrifices so that he may achieve further enlightenment. He must also give charity according to the country, time, and candidate, discriminating among charity in goodness, in passion, and in ignorance, as described in Bhagavad Gita. Then, after retiring from household life upon accepting the order of Banaprastha, he undergoes severe penances, living in forests, dressing with tree bark, not serving, etc. By carrying out the orders of brahmacharya, household life, Banaprastha, and finally sannyasa, one becomes elevated to the perfectional stage of life. Some are then elevated to the heavenly kingdoms, and when they become even more advanced, they are liberated in the spiritual sky, either in the impersonal Brahmayoti or in the Vaikuntha planet or Krishna Loka. This is the path outlined by Vedic literature. The beauty of Krishna consciousness, is, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all the rituals of the different orders of life. The words idam viditva indicate that one should understand the instructions given by Sri Krishna in this chapter and the seventh chapter of Bhagavad Gita. One should try to understand this chapters not by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing them in association with devotees. Chapter 7 through 12 are the essence of Bhagavad Gita. The first six and last six chapters are like coverings for the middle six chapters, which are especially protected by the Lord. If one is fortunate enough to understand Bhagavad Gita, especially this middle six chapters in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifices, charity, speculation, etc. For one can achieve all the results of these activities simply by Krishna consciousness. One who has a little faith in Bhagavad Gita should learn Bhagavad Gita from a devotee, because in the beginning of the fourth chapter it is stated clearly that Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees. No one else can perfectly understand the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore learn Bhagavad Gita from a devotee of Krishna, not from mental speculators. This is a sign of faith. When one searches for a devotee and fortunately gets devotee's association, one actually begins to study and understand Bhagavad Gita. By advancement in the association of the devotee, one is placed in devotional service, and the service dispels all one's misgivings about Krishna or God, and Krishna's activities, form, pastimes, name, and other features. After these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one's study. Then one relishes the study of Bhagavad Gita and attains the state of feeling always Krishna consciousness. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. This highest perfectional stage of life enables the devotees to be transferred to the Sri Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Golok Vrindavan, where the devotee becomes eternally happy. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the eighth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of attaining the Supreme. So with this, we have completed this particular section as well as the chapter number 8. So this chapter has total, as we have seen, 28 verses. And in this today's session, we have completed the last section, that is from verse number 23 to verse number 28, where we try to, just to summarize, we have seen the supremacy of a devotion in attaining the Supreme. So in this section, we have seen from verse number 23 to till verse number 26, the Lord describes different ways of leaving this world for the karmis and the jnanis. But having said that, Krishna's devotees may not worry about this path. Why? Because simply by engaging in devotional service, they attain the beneficial results of all paths, and at the end, they reach the supreme destination. That is again from verse number 27 to verse number 28. So by hearing the middle six chapters of Bhagavad Gita in the association of devotees, one gets the benefits of performing all kinds of sacrifices and penances, and one progresses from anartha nibriti to pure love of Krishna. So in this section we have completed the we understood from verse number 23 to verse number 28 the supremacy of devotion in attaining the supreme. In the next session we will start reading the chapter number 9, which is basically the Lord Bhagavad Gita describes the confidential knowledge of the difference between the soul and the body. So we will stop here. Looking forward to read chapter number 9 in the next session. Hare Krishna.